I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investment Pitch Media and FinTech News Network. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Eddy Travia, the CEO and co-founder of Coinsillium. Eddy, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time to be here.
Thank you, Ashton. Thank you.
I'm really excited to dive into our conversation today about Coinsillium. I know you have quite the background in the blockchain space. So if we could kick it off with, a bit of your background on what you've been doing in the blockchain space and what you've done and how that led to founding Coinsillium.
Yes, sure. So I've been in Asia, mainly in China, since 2004. I'm originally from France, and I was working in private equity and investments in this part of the world. And in 2012, a friend of mine told me about Bitcoin. It took me a few months to get my head around it. And in 2013, there were two events that kind of triggered my interest for Bitcoin. It was Cyprus, when the central bank decided to take money off some people's account for their own financial issues. And then there was an investment in a small company back then called Coinbase. It was maybe the first round of investment by external investor. It was a small round, maybe a few $1 million, $6 million, maybe something like that. And I decided, from my experience in VC funding and my own interest in startups, I was an internet entrepreneur back in the late 90s. I decided to look at the Bitcoin ecosystem more with the angle of an incubator, helping companies to build the tools so that this whole Bitcoin ecosystem could evolve, could grow. And at the time, it was not blockchain yet; it was just Bitcoin. And we organized the first conference in Singapore and basically in Asia in November 2013. It was called Bitcoin Singapore. It was sponsored by EatBit, which became Paxos. And then I started talking to as many entrepreneurs as I could in the space. We decided to invest in 6 companies. That happened in 2014. And we actually invested in Bitcoin. But because at that time the price of Bitcoin was declining, it was not such a great, it was not that great for the investees, because they were getting a bit less in US dollar value as time went by. But those who kept it, hopefully, that could make a big difference today, obviously. So in 2014, we decided to make a move to the next phase, which was bringing some legitimacy to the sector and to our company. And we decided to create a company that could be listed on a stock exchange. We worked from spring 2014 to December 2015, and we get listed on an exchange at the time called ISDX, today called Aquis in London. And our ticker symbol is COIN, COIN, for Coinsillium. And very recently, we announced the fact that we are now listed in the US on the OTCQB market. So our stock has been listed since 2015 in London. And the first investment we made at the time was in RSK, at the time called Rootstock. It was the first investment as a listed company, and it was also their first external investor for their round. But then we were joined by other reputable companies like Digital Currency Group and many others. So that's basically the birth of Coinsillium. 2015 and 16 were, let's say, quieter years because of the fact that there was, it was a time when people started to understand blockchain, but because of the price kind of gloom at the time, then there was a bit less interest. So we kept on building, and then in 2017, we had our first exit, a company called Satoshi Pay, which we sold for more than 360% profit. And then we started as well, at the end of 2017, we started doing advisory work. And that's when we moved to a more of a revenue-based company, which is kind of not usually the case for an investment firm.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting background, Eddy. And I'm glad that you guys stuck with it through those years where there wasn't a lot of capital injection and that just working away. And obviously that has paid off now. So that's great to hear. Now, I want to know a little bit more about Coinsillium and the operations that you have and the pivots that you've made as well. And, you've sort of pivoted to an open finance venture operator. And obviously, as the industry has shifted and continued to grow, you also had to shift with that. So can you give me a little bit more details on what you're doing exactly right now with Coinsillium?
Yes, sure. So what happened basically is that we've witnessed for several years that the market didn't really see the same potential we saw in blockchain. And at the same time, the market had trouble valuing our companies and our stakes in companies. So after this advisory work, we realized that we could use our network and our experience in the field to actually build ventures in a more active manner. I mean, we were not that passive with our original investment, but of course there's so much we can do. It's not a big team. So basically, our record has been that we had invested in 20 companies, and out of the top 20 companies, we have one big success. I think the major one is RSK, and then the rest we have 5 exits and 8 that are still active today. So, which is a good performance for an early stage fund where risk is pretty high, but at the same time we believe that it's a numbers game. So instead of basically going to invest in 5 times more startups, we decided we want to focus on certain fields. So we decided to focus, as you were saying, on open finance, which of course includes decentralized finance, DeFi, and NFTs, and as well in the emerging markets, mainly Southeast Asia, because that's where I'm based and where we have some experience as well. And so now we're moving to this more proactive and venture building side of the business.
That's really interesting. And you mentioned RSK. I know they were working on smart contracts on the Bitcoin blockchain, and that's something that really, I think they sort of need to catch up to Ethereum with this DeFi is getting so popular. And as you've been investing since the birth of Ethereum, DeFi has really only just taken off in 2020, but I'm sure there was some early signs of open finance in Ethereum. Can you talk about how you found those investments and how you look for investments in open finance?
Yeah, sure. So it's true that many new things happen. At the early stage, we're mostly investing in what we call transactional applications, remittances, wallets, exchanges, and of course, when smart contracts appeared, mainly at first with the Ethereum blockchain, all the data applications started happening, and all the smart contracts started giving more complex financial tools to investors and to crypto traders, right? So we follow that market very closely, but of course, it's until very recently that we have witnessed the explosion of interest in DeFi. Now, there is one part of DeFi which is really underdeveloped when you think about it, and you look closely, is a DeFi on Bitcoin. So basically, RSK is ideally positioned to really tap this market. You have billions of dollars of Bitcoin or value in Bitcoin, which are completely out of the DeFi market because some people don't want to go through the wrap BTC and the centralized kind of current systems. And a lot of that could go into the tools that RSK is building today. One of these tools, for example, is money on chain, dollar on chain, which gives you both access to a stable coin for these countries where you have very high inflation, and you don't want to see your local currency eroded by inflation on a daily basis. And at the same time, you can get yield on Bitcoin, which is great. Especially for Bitcoin holders who already believes in Bitcoin anyway. So if they get yields, it's a bonus. So you have RSK Swap now, which is based on it's very similar to Uniswap, and you have a new platform coming up, which is so-called Sovereign, which will enable DeFi lending and yield as well, yield farming like on DeFi. Of course, the DeFi on Bitcoin is still not as developed yet, but I think it's going to grow. There is huge potential. And our own interest in DeFi as well is the fact that we see that there is a kind of a gap between the crypto world and the real economy. And we would love to, kind of bring these two back together and enable DeFi kind of tools for the real economy where people need financing and need yield as well.
Definitely. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Eddy. And, for context, the DeFi space, which it seems like it's 90% plus on the Ethereum protocol right now, it's grown from even just in the summer of 2020, $1 billion of liquidity locked in to, over $10 billion now, and a tenfold increase in such a short time, with a lot of that going into speculation and not really real world use cases that are actually providing, open finance to the underbanked and the unbanked and people that need loans or they need to earn interest with a very small amount of money. Do you see the DeFi moving in the right space with the growth of these liquidity pools, and what needs to be done to get to those real world use cases?
Yeah, I think there is still a lot of work, but I think the fluidity, the transparency, and all the benefits from decentralizations that come with DeFi can really be important benefits and attraction and attractive points to the entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs, as you were saying. People that may be unbanked that still have some wealth, but that wealth is not recognized, or would need some money to finance their day-to-day business and operations. At the same time, there is also a vast number of people who have cash or may have a full-time job and have a let's say a middle-class type of wealth, but they see their options for investing are quite reduced today with the fact that you don't get yield from many investment opportunities. So as we all know, we see now we have enterprises and retail investors who are really looking closely at cryptocurrencies and moving away, for example, from gold, which was usually traditionally the type of investment they were looking at when, especially when you have like negative interest rates around the world. Mm-hmm. So I think there is, DeFi can help both emerging markets, financial inclusion, and as well quite a large retail investor market too.
Mm-hmm. And it does seem fairly early on, considering the exponential growth really just happened in the past few months. Do you see this as one of the top trends that you're going to be looking for more early stage startups to invest in, specifically in DeFi for the next year or the next few years?
Yes, so as I was saying, in terms of the pivot, we're going to do more than investing. We're going to be actually active, and with some partners, we're going to build platforms that can actually enable people to take advantage of these solutions and this technology. So we're going to move beyond investing to have a more active role. So it means less projects, obviously, but much more work. And we believe that our experience and our network really going to help make this a success.
Mm-hmm, definitely, and that's really exciting. I'm glad that you're moving in that direction, Eddy. And there's another topic that I want to touch on that's been fairly hot throughout 2020, and it seems like it's going to continue to grow in terms of blockchain use cases, and that is NFTs and non-fungible tokens. You mentioned it at the beginning. In this year, I've seen a lot of NFTs be created, for the most part, from digital art and digital collectibles that are now trading on decentralized marketplaces. And again, it sort of seems like there's a little bit of speculation in there, but there is so much potential for real-world use cases. So where do you see that part of the industry at? Are you guys going to be building that area as well? And how do you see the growth for NFTs?
Yes, we're definitely interested in that space. We believe there is also huge potential. We have already announced one MOU with a company in Vietnam, a venture builder in the emerging tech space called Red Fox Labs. And Red Fox Lab, for example, they developed the most successful NFTs on sale on the Wax platform. This is one project that they have successfully completed already. But with them, we have some projects. Being a listed company, we cannot say anything before it's actually publicly announced. But we're working on that. But for now, we have an MOU between our JV. So we have a joint venture in Singapore with RSK. It's called IOV Labs Asia. And with that JV, we have signed this MOU with Red Fox Labs. At the same time, one of our companies, of portfolio companies called Startup Token, of which we have 30% there in Singapore, they're developing an digital art marketplace called Minty.art. So that's another one to follow. So we believe there is a great potential with art because of many reasons. First of all, because it's much easier to buy and sell art this way. Mm-hmm. And also it gives this great platform to a lot of artists and creators to sell their art directly to collectors and people who like it. Of course, there is speculation, a bit of speculation, I can imagine, but that's both from the crypto space and the art space and the art sector as well. But I think we're going to see NFTs in much more mainstream type of adoption. So, for example, there are now, big brands joining with, maybe blockchain companies or development companies that are working on NFTs. So you see, artists, more famous mainstream artists looking at NFTs. And I think we're going to have to go towards this convergence of, an ideal tool especially in times like right now with the COVID pandemic, where artists have to interact digitally with their with their fans and the people in their community and people that follow them. So today, concerts are out of the question, and there are many other channels that cannot happen today because there's no physical contact and large events. So basically, they have to rely on technology, and I think that's obviously a kind of a worldwide phenomenon. Everybody's relying more on technology today, which of course gives more use cases to blockchain. And I think NFT is one of those. NFT is one where we're going to have solutions for people to communicate. Could be sports, could be music, could be entertainment in general. And I think we're going to see great things in that space.
Mm-hmm. I agree, Eddy, and I think that once that potential is unleashed, those artists that are creating that digital artwork, and once they have the platform, you'll have democratized access, and they'll actually have a much bigger audience than they ever thought before. So I think it really will unleash a lot of potential when it does reach to that mainstream level. So great work in that section, and we're running out of time, but I want to look forward to next year and see how you guys are continuing to grow. Are you looking for just more projects to work with, or more team members, or more strategic partners?
Yes, but to be clear, we're already discussing with more strategic partners, correct? Yes, I think we have great things coming for 2021. First of all, as we all can see, the crypto market is doing well. I mean, it's more of a market sentiment position than anything else. I mean, we don't necessarily need the Bitcoin price at any certain level for us to do well, because obviously we are focused on the technology and the adoption of that technology. But of course, as a market sentiment, we have always seen more interest and even valuations going higher when crypto prices are doing well. And so with this wave of the end of the year, end of 2020, in a very positive sentiment, we're pretty sure that 2021 will be a good year for Coinsillium and for the projects that we're working on.
That's great. And if the viewers are looking to learn more about Coinsillium, what's the best way for them to learn more?
So they can go on coinsillium.com, coinsillium.com. And because we're a listed company, they can have access to our annual reports and a lot of information there explaining everything we have done so far. And then we have a Twitter account at Coinsillium Group, where we post all the news. And of course, all our market news are also announced on the main financial news outlets.
I will leave those links in the description box below for the viewers as well. Thank you so much for the time, Eddy. All the best with Coinsillium, and let's follow up in the near future.
Thank you, Ashton. Pleasure.